Have you ever found something that changes everything you thought you knew about love? I found something like that in my grandmother's attic. A box hidden behind quilts and forgotten things. But it wasn't full of memories of her life with my grandfather. No, it was something far more mysterious. A series of love letters written during a time I'd never known about. Each one told a story of a passion that seemed to live only in the words. But who were they for? And why had she kept them hidden? I was about to uncover something that would change everything, not just about her life, but about mine. That first night, I couldn't stop reading. Letter after letter, I found myself lost in the world of someone I didn't know. My grandmother. A woman I thought I knew so well. But the woman in these letters, she was different. She spoke of a man named Elias, someone I had never heard her mention. She wrote to him with such devotion, such longing, that I wondered if this love was the one she truly carried in her heart. But where was he now? Why had she never spoken of him to anyone? I couldn't let it go. The more I read, the more questions piled up. Why had she never told anyone about Elias? My grandfather, the man I thought had been the love of her life, didn't match the man in the letters. And he certainly wasn't the one she spoke of so tenderly. I dug through every box, every photograph, looking for something, anything to explain it. But I found nothing. My mother didn't remember a thing. My grandfather had never mentioned Elias. In fact, it was like Elias had never existed at all. But then I found it. A return address. Riverbend, Maine. A town I had never heard of. And that was it. I knew I had to go there. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I knew I had to go. So I drove to Riverbend. The town was small, quiet, the kind of place where everyone knows your name. I had no plan, really. I just thought I might find an old record, a historian who remembered him. But when I stepped into the bookstore, I didn't expect to meet someone who would change everything. He looked just like the photograph I had found in my grandmother's letters. His name was Caleb. His grandfather was Elias, the man who had written those letters. And for the first time, I wondered if this was fate, if I was meant to meet him. But why? Caleb didn't know much more than I did, but something about his presence made everything feel possible. We read the letters together, sharing the same disbelief, the same yearning for answers. And then he found it, a scrap of paper hidden inside one of the envelopes. A map. It led to a bench by the river with the words, "For the day we meet again." I realized my grandmother had waited for him. She had never let go. And maybe, just maybe, she had come here to meet him once more, but fate had kept them apart. But there was one last thing I hadn't expected. The bench, the carving, the map, it all pointed to something more than I'd ever imagined. My grandmother never met Elias again. He had passed away years before she could reach him. But in that moment, I felt something shift between Caleb and me. It wasn't just about the past anymore. It was about us. Was I falling in love with him because of his grandfather? Or was it something deeper? The more time I spent with him, the more I realized he wasn't just Elias' grandson. He was a part of a story that had waited decades to be told. Caleb and I started to write each other letters, real ones, not texts. It felt strange at first, but something about putting pen to paper made everything feel more real. And then, one evening, he handed me a letter that simply read, "I'm already at yours." And just like that, I understood. Love doesn't always need an ending. Sometimes it's about finding the next chapter. That night, by the river, I knew what my grandmother had never known. That love doesn't just survive through time. It transcends it. And sometimes, the letters you find aren't just messages from the past. They're blueprints for the future. Maybe it took finding those letters to understand that some love stories never really end. They just wait. And when you least expect it, they bring you home. You never know what you'll find in an attic, or whose heart it might lead you to next.